I think more students will be joining, so we can start it. Okay, sir. My dear students and colleagues, it is indeed a delight for us to have Professor Ravi Verma with us. When I received a positive reply from him, I was indeed very, very happy because listening to Professor Verma is a real delight. Being a student, I can tell you that he will mesmerize you. We were all great followers of Sir, and we still remember vividly the excellent classes he used to take. Now, Sir, just to give you a brief background, this placement talk, we are doing it this year mainly to sensitize the students about the job market, about the new skills they need to learn, about the demand of the job market they must acquire, the emerging issues or areas where they can focus, and obviously to motivate them. And I think we are not having any person better than you who can motivate our students. So with this small introduction, I can tell my students about Professor Ravi Verma. His curriculum vitae is too long, so I'm trying to summarize it as best as I can. He's a PhD in social science from the Indian Institute of Technology, Bombay, and master's in psychology from the University of Allahabad. An excellent orator, a great teacher, and a very warm and affectionate human being. Professor Verma is currently the director of ICRW Asia. He has more than 3 decades of experience in programmatic research, evaluation in the area of family planning, reproductive health, gender mainstreaming, HIV/AIDS, and he has done excellent work in social demography, which cuts across the area of family planning, gender-based violence, economic development, masculinity, so on and so forth. At ICRW, he led a groundbreaking gender equity movement in school program, which aimed to reduce violence and promote equitable gender norms among boys and girls aged 12 to 18 in schools of Mumbai. He also leads ICRW's evaluation of the Protection of Women from Domestic Violence Act of 2005 in India, and is engaged in research on preventing child marriages in many countries in this region. Because of his dedicated intensive work on gender issues, he was appointed as the key member and member of a number of important committees. To name a few, is the Empowerment of Working Group for Family Planning, Vice Chair of Indian National AIDS Control, Ethics Review Committee, Gender-Based Violence and Adolescent Health at national level. Dr. Verma has worked extensively with wide range of donors and partners, including USAID's, Plan International, UN Work, UN Women, Oak Foundation, MacArthur Foundation, Gates Foundation, London School of Health and Tropical Medicine, World Bank, all UN organizations, and Government of India. He joined ICRW in 2007, but before that, he was a faculty of IIPS and a professor in the Department of Population Policies and Programs, and he served us for more than 20 years. We are really thankful to Professor Verma, and we, being a student of Sir, cannot express how much we have learned from him. The encouragement that he used to give, the friendliness of interaction that we used to have, we all remember that very, very vividly. So thank you very much, sir, for agreeing to discuss variety of issues with our students. I'm sure that it will be a great session. So my colleague and placement cell coordinator, Manas, is also present here. So he will welcome you and say something about you, followed by Professor James. So over to you, Manas.
Thank you, ma'am, and thank you for nicely introducing sir. I think means I need not to add anything to the points. Rather than I would request Professor James to speak a few words, followed by his lecture, because we all are looking forward to his lecture. We want to listen from you, so I would not take waste any time. I request Professor James to speak a few words, followed by Verma sir's lecture. Thank you again, sir, for kindly agreeing for this lecture.
Thank you. I think I will also say the same thing, that I should also not spend much time on speaking because we all look forward to your lecture. But maybe a couple of things, Professor Verma, because, perhaps inviting you, we have also some hidden interest in it. Because, if you really look at, compared to over the last few decades, how the job market of the students of the population studies have changed from perhaps from the UNFPA, UN organization, to the Population Council organization, now maybe more concentrated on the ICRW. And ICRW, I understand that one of the important place for the students to seek employment, as well as similar organizations. So naturally, I'm sure your talk will be important for the students really to understand what such organizations are looking forward and what is that missing in IIPS in terms of their techniques or in terms of their understanding of the issues, which is very important. I think part of it perhaps has to be addressed at the institutional level by the faculty level, but also it would also be interested to know from the students level, because much of the students learning in any case in any institutions are also peer learning. So naturally, that's such an insight will also help them to really get an understanding where they should really concentrate in the future. So otherwise, I think, as we have already told you, because the student strength has increased in IAPS, but we never had a good placement cell, because the past, as you know, since you know about IAPS greatly than many of us, because IAPS students always get jobs, so we don't need to make any efforts from IAPS. So all of them, it was a small number as well, so all of them suddenly get into a job, and very good job. So, but now the number has increased, so we also need to think about what are the other ways we can really help them to get jobs. So I'm sure your talk will be of much great help to all of them. So thank you once again for agreeing, and we look forward to your talk. Over to you, Professor Verma.
Thank you, Professor James and Dr. Prajita and Manas for having me with you. And of course, you have set a very difficult kind of an agenda for me. I let me first address dear students, and when I say students, let me make also it very clear that I can vouch that many of you at this very moment could be a teacher to me. I am not exaggerating by any proportion, because I've seen that a lot of students, a lot of you have such tremendous, understanding of issues. You explore on your own, you reach out, and it has always been the case. In every generation I have seen, there have been students who have done extraordinary work within IIPS, and they have set examples when they moved out. So, and it's not that they were only trained at IIPS that produced that kind of product. Of course, IIPS did smoothen the contours, but my theory has always been that a lot of you come with the predispositions. You come from many different disciplines. You come with your own ambitions and aspirations, and all I want to say is that just don't be too anxious about job. I think my first point, I want to highlight 5 or 6 points in my this brief conversation. And first thing I really want to underscore that please be assured, training in demography and population studies, what you get at IIPS will take you to places, and believe in this. Just believe in that. You may be in large numbers and you may feel a sense of a competition and a loss of job markets, but the kind of skills you bring on board will always remain and has always remained and will always remain in demand in one way or the other. And I think many of you perhaps would know it much better than I know, because you have been exploring some of these ideas and job markets and various opportunities. So I would not really like to set this particular talk from a career counseling perspective. I'm sure that I'm not the best of the persons to counsel anyone on how to get jobs and where to get jobs. And why? Because I think I have believed in a couple of things, and I just want to talk about those high level or some abstract issues that are so pertinent while seeking job or while making your own career path. So I want to begin by saying that remember very well that you have not begun your career with this course at IIPS, which I was saying. In fact, your journey to exploring your career had begun much before you joined IIPS. You chose to undergo this training in demography or population studies, with which I used to use the term population studies more than demography, and there has always been a kind of a divide in how we visualize this. But the kind of training you wanted to undertake when you came to IIPS, you already had some ideas of exploring different avenues, new skill sets, on top of what you already had. Many of you, I know in IIPS, you all come from varied background. There are lots of social science disciplines, psychology, sociology, economics, geography, and then mathematics and statistics. You are all kind of a whole lot of different specializations that you bring in after doing your masters, many of them, many of you, and that has a distinct opportunity to contribute to what you learned from IIPS. And I think this point is that you need to hear it out. You must remember that there's no one way to find job. There's no one direction to find jobs or build careers. The best course of action in thinking through your career is to first identify where you come from, what your basic skill sets, the basic training, what was your the foundation course in which you did your masters of basic training, and how does training at IIPS combine with those skills and those predispositions to make you a new person with both. So I hope, and I've seen that many of my colleagues within IIPS and students used variety of different pathways to build their careers and found their jobs. Many of them went to corporates. They went into specializations in the computer fields. And many went back to the discipline from which they came, and began to sharpen that discipline in whichever place that they went to for teaching or research, with this added skill of this demographic techniques and learning to look at data from a different lens. So so while I think you look for job and opportunities, please ensure that those jobs and opportunities are part of your larger schemes, how you evaluate yourselves. But be assured, I'm repeating that training in IIPS, the kind of rigorous coursework that you go through, I've seen the amount of hard work that the faculty puts in, the amount of hard work you all put in fact, will always take you to places, provided you remember that you already had some special skills and talents and predispositions. Those need to be harnessed, actually. The other point that I really want to emphasize in search of your career at this point, and what Professor James said, situation has become far more complex now, given how job markets have changed, and from a narrow end of very demographic analytical job market, the job markets have begun to demand multiple skills, and and the fact that there's no one skill that sustains you throughout has almost become a kind of a mantra that one needs to be conscious of. So the other thing that I've always been conscious in my career, in my own journey, has been someone said, and I remember, I don't know who said this, is that generally people rise to their inefficiency. So we all rise till we become inefficient, in fact. And I think that's important to know, that whatever we do, we don't take that as the end of, or the goal of my learning. I think learning continues. I don't know how many of you have read a book called Better by Atul Gawande. I really think many of you must have read, but I really like that book. Atul Gawande is a surgeon based in US, and he wrote a very profound book on better, largely from a medical science and medical research and practice perspective. But some of his ideas are so applicable to all of us who are trying to build our career, who are trying to find our ways in life. And he talks of three things, in order not to become inefficient, reach the level of inefficiencies. The first thing is diligence. The second is doing things right. And third is ingenuity. And so out of these three, diligence, of course, is that you must pay a lot of attention to details. You must do even simple things in our day-to-day job or work. We take things for granted. Where did I keep my notebook, and where did I keep my laptop? And next time, if you mess up with that, you lose time in searching for it. And I keep shuffling with my own papers when I have to organize myself, because if I don't pay attention to that. And I'm giving this very mundane example just to say that how small details in life are so critical in making you diligent in what you do. And that applies to your learning, your profession, career, chalking out your career. That whatever training you're taking, make sure that you are diligent about it. And then second is doing things right. You are the only one who knows that I'm doing it right. This is the right way of doing things. And that's the technique. You as a technological, as a technical expert, you are supposed to know what is right. And if you don't pay attention to those technical details and technical competence, then I think you're failing yourself as a as a professional, and you may be failing others when you move up in the career. But I think also the third point that the Atul Gawande makes in the book, he talks about ingenuity, and ingenuity is not really something that we think doing something new or out of the box. Ingenuity is your ability to see and be obsessive about your failures. And I'm not saying it any rhetorical sense. I'm saying it with complete conviction that we don't learn from anyone else as much as we learn from our failures. And failures don't break us, should not make us, the success should not make us, and failures should not really break us down, because from failures, we need to learn how can I do things better. It's, and when I say that failure, I don't mean that one has to completely fail in order to introspect, but anything that you do, remember, anything that you do in life, anything we do in life, there is always to look back and say that how I could have done it better, how could I have done it differently. I think, and that means remaining always in a self-critical mode is what is so important. And I think if you want to if you want to search for a career, for a job, you must develop an attitude of this kind that presents you as someone who is first, who holds the mirror to himself or herself first, in knowing what is, what I have to learn from I think, and that's where he says that betterment is a perpetual labor. We constantly, and I really love this quote when he says that, is never one stop journey that you have done from IIPS. You've trained yourself. Now you're ready to plunge, and you are expected to perform, 5-star work, high-rated work. You should always be in a mode of making sure that that you're questioning, how can I do this thing better? If I was doing this exercise of, let's say, relating one sets of variables with another sets of variables under certain hypothesis, and you have certain techniques to test it out using multivariate or whatever analysis, can you think of some other ways of checking it out? Can you go back to the drawing board and say, okay, can I find this relationship differently? There's no one standard way, no standard one way to find the knowledge of truth. So I think, and this again is, I'm not saying with any sense of rhetoricism or with a sense of giving you a preaching down your throat, but I have learned it hard way. I have myself learned it hard way. And I definitely think that when I was building my career, when I was thinking of my jobs, I didn't want to reach a level of inefficiency. I know I had certain efficiencies, but at some level I'll become inefficient. And that means I need to keep my doors open, to believe in what I'm doing. And in order to do this, the third point that I want to emphasize is that you must find your passion for the work that you do. You all have come from very different disciplines. You must have done your master with certain ideas of what you must want to do in life, and how do you see that particular discipline shaping your thinking and your career. Now you are in demography and population studies. I can tell you from my own experience of journey in IIPS, I came from a background in psychology with one semester coursework on social demography in IIT, which I did as part of my PhD program, and I knew some basics of what social demography and all the basic aspects of demography. And then I got an opportunity to work in IIPS, and I learned a lot of the population studies and demography by attending classes of my colleagues and growing with, with the growing of the institution. And but at no point I really gave up my my lens of looking at issues, which I had thought I had developed some kind of attachment, was psychological. I always thought that that's a profound lens to look at issues. But I learned in IIPS through these various exposures and teaching that I did in the process when I did my own preparations, and learned that there is another framework. The demography teaches you, gives you a data, and data at larger level that has several untold and layered stories. If you look at such large data sets, and then you always wonder that, are there hidden mysteries here that I'm not aware of, or I can dig more? I always thought individual has such tremendous choice and such tremendous agency to make differences. But I soon realized that, that individual has to be seen within the appropriate and larger framework of many other structures of influences that demography and population studies was trying to reveal to me by looking at those data sets. And added to this, my learning from sociology and macroeconomic theories that were also going parallel within this institution from many different classes made it abundantly clear that we are into a far more complex world of reality, and it's just not either individual or a few drivers, but it is a far more complex set. And that time itself I knew that the future of demography will always be in India at least, will become more, will survive strongly only if they begin to imbibe this kind of a multiple framework perspectives in explaining what happened and explaining the outcomes. So, and that means that I was desperate to find my own passion in this search of what is it that that explains the outcomes, whether it is fertility or it is people's preferences for sons, or is it certain sexual behaviors, or is it so whatever the outcomes you look at. And I found that eventually we and that's my take. I found that how norms and how social structures and the larger social justice framework becomes such profound explanatory context for most of the things that we are looking at, and are we looking at these influences seriously or not, was a major issue. And I developed my own passion for taking a deeper dive into using a gender and caste and class intersection as a lens to explore a lot of issues, even simple issues like who decides how many children one should have is so much determined by this intersection of how gender norms and caste structures and larger social structures determine those decisions. And individuals literally become a very small, they become almost a kind of executor of those unwritten expectations around them. And it takes a lot of um, you know, for individuals to challenge this, needs to have another dynamics of processes. So I don't want to go too much detail. I don't think I'm taking a lecture on how do you combine these different disciplines, but I thought I'll use this opportunity to tell you that in case you're looking for opportunities and job markets, you be aware that you already have, you are not only a demographic statistical technical person, you have learned these techniques with certain perspective and had the opportunity within IIPS, with your background in your disciplines, to have a broader lens. And that should really give you a confidence to seek jobs. You can walk into any office, whether it's a climate or energy or food or agriculture, livelihood, or research centers like IIP, ICRWs, or those who keep doing surveys and market research agencies. They're all same when it comes to using this particular perspective of how you're combining various perspectives and translating them through your skills of analysis to arrive at certain outcomes that could then be open for further investigations or further research or further discourse setting. So I don't know how meaningful it is for you listening to this kind of a very generic piece, but my sense is that when Professor James said that, what do you look for when you hire people? And I think we all in this sector look for people who have who have these abilities to be self-critical, are willing to expand the horizons, are appreciative of many other frameworks, and are willing to combine them in their work and show how it impacts any output and increase the quality of those outputs. And you increase the quality of those outputs only by having perspectives. Quality is just not about how you articulate things. I can tell you one can write well, but all that writing may make absolutely no sense if it does not have the right perspective and right kind of a analysis and right kind of a and that's what I said, we do things right is what the second principle of being success is. So that's my third, I don't know what, fourth point. The next, having said all this, I just want to link it to your eagerness to find jobs and search. I'm very much aware of that, but I can tell you one thing, when that never regret, whatever choices you make in your career. As I said, no choice ever is always right, but choices can be made, can be improved. Once you made the choice, you can improve it. So never feel that you're dumped or you've made a wrong choice of any job or opportunities that you get in. I think important thing is that instead of brooding over what went wrong in making this choice, the best course of action is how to make that choice better, how to make the opportunities work for you at that time. So use whatever skills and perspectives you bring in to enhance that ability. And and that's what I was I always look back to many decisions that I took in my career. Aparajita told me that please talk about yourself as well, and I always and I think that was easy for me talking about myself, without getting obsessed about myself. But I have also believed that a person is the best teacher to oneself, in that sense, that ingenuity part. And provided I'm ready to learn from myself, provided you are ready to learn from yourself. I'll come to that point a little later, but um, I really want to underscore that please, never ever regret. You will not make a wrong choice. You will not get a wrong job. Whatever you get, make sure you make best out of that and move on uh, with these perspectives. And that's where I wanted to segue into learning from yourself or learning from your peers. I think no teacher can teach you what your peers can teach you. I have, my first guru was my PhD fellow, Professor Sharma in IIT. He was the assistant. He was a course assistant for demography in IIT. And when we both joined as a student, and he was doing PhD under Professor Mishra, and Professor Mishra would leave all the teaching jobs to him for, and Professor Sharma, is brilliant. So um, he was my guru as kind of my peer, and he was from sociology, and we and learned a lot from him. And later, uh, in my transition during the IFPS times, I learned from all my colleagues. I won't name because otherwise I'll spend the whole time in naming them. But all my contemporaries were my teachers. I would attend their classes and learn from them. And later, my students were fantastic. Those who did their PhDs, who broke the ground for new kind of thinking. And that's how I began to develop my passion for issues around sexualities and gender and power. When when some of those students, again, I will not name, because then there's many of them to be named. Because each one of them really contributed in one way or the other to my own learning of how to break that boundary of reaching to new things. They would have readings done. And then we'll spend a lot of time discussing what they had read, and it will be my gain in the process of to be very honest, a very selfish but fulfilling experience, platform I had at IIPS. I don't think one would ever get on any other platform as a teacher or as a fellow traveler, even among yourself. I think students, the good quality institutions and high enriched institutions create these forums among students, this learning forums, people, and with so many disciplines that you have represented, there should be discussion forums among yourselves, coming from different disciplines and talking about an issue from from a lens of political economy versus a very micro individual psychological perspective, and see how people react to those and what richness that brings in thinking. So, and that will not happen in a classroom, I can tell you that, because teachers are supposed to fulfill a curriculum. They have a time, they have to address 50 students sitting there, and there's a limitation to that. I think you need to add value to those learning process. if in case you want to really sharpen in your career and job outside, you need to have that training of critical thinking, reflections, and and be bold to talk about what you want to talk and say through this kind of forums that you create within the institution, among yourself. So I think I definitely think that there is a lot of learning that you should do through your peer-to-peer learning, using your indigenous ways of learning within IIPS on different topics, different issues, different skill sets. And finally, after that I'll stop. You must really have full fun. You must enjoy. You know, I know in 3 days you have to submit your assignments and then prepare for papers and term paper and all that. I know the whole routine. But you must have your other passions. I mean, there's so much of talent there of singers and, you know, um, and the players and they are musicians and the whole lot of you have some of you write so well, some of you are, you know, articulate and orate so well. So my sense is that find your passion. If some of you read books, have a book club and discuss those kind of ideas. That is much better than discussing the mundane politics and politics is an important thing to discuss. But I think the level of maturity that one needs to address these changing times also comes from this multiple perspectives and acceptance of diversities. And if it doesn't happen in this institution, like where you are, you will never get it. Once you leave IAPS, you will not get that opportunity. And I would really think that you should talk to your teachers. You should talk to your the people within the faculty and others to create that atmosphere, or you should create yourself within the hostels and others. I think nobody will stop that. So maintain a perfect balance between what you what your basic passion is about in life, and then combine that perspective with what you're learning and how you're learning. Become a seamless person, you know, from individual to profession. So when you come out and when you face interviews, when you talk to people who are recruiting you, they will be but impressed by a person who can take these wider lens to you know, talk about oneself and other issues beyond technicalities, I think. So I'll just, I think I'll just stop here for the time being. I think I do not want to become too one-sided monologue, preachy, top down, but I think it's, I just wanted to share as someone who is also building one's own career. I can tell you, even at this age and stage of my life, I often think that there's so much to do, there's so much to learn, and there's so much to learn from those who are young and who have so much to contribute. So I'm sure in this sector there is a need for energy, there's a need for new ideas, there's a need for multiple thinking, there's a need for people who are inclusive, there's a need for people who can take others along and not create boundaries. And that's where you will all fit in. And unless you maximize these opportunities here, you will be struggling. I'm sure life always gives another chance to everyone and gives third chance and fourth chance. So you always get a chance. But I think sooner you grab those opportunities, better it is in improving ourselves. So all the best. I'll just stop here. Thanks. Thank you so much for listening. You know, this is another feature that I hate, talking to blank walls. I don't know who's sleeping and who's doing what. In the classroom, I was sure that people were looking at me. I would see that people look at me and I look at, I hate to talk to my own camera because I am the worst critic of my own, of myself. So when I see myself talking, I find that there's something terrible wrong here. So, but anyway, I hope you were listening. So
Yes.
all the best to all of you. I'll be happy to answer anything.
Thank you, sir. Thanks a lot for this enlightening lecture. I'm sure there is no doubt at all that it is an eye-opener for most of us, and definitely for our students who are searching for, you know, different careers after graduating from IAPS. So, sir, if you have a few minutes, can I request some student if they have any specific query to be answered from your side? Maybe another 5 or 10 minutes.
No, please go on. I know the students don't have time right now. I have allocated my time.
Yeah.
So
Okay.
they have to submit the term paper, I suppose.
Thank you, sir. We like this actually. So, students, sir has kindly agreed to answer to some of your queries. If you have anything, feel free to unmute yourself and ask. Otherwise, please write in the chat box so that it can be addressed. Over to you, students. Please feel free to ask if you have anything to ask to sir.
They will come up. I think in the meantime, if Manas allows me, I can
Please,
share
please,
few
ma'am.
lines. Yeah,
Please, ma'am. Please go ahead.
I think we all love to listen to Professor Verma, and all our negativity will convert into positivity if we continue listening to him.
Yeah.
So thank you for such a wonderful, energetic, and positive thoughts. I think three very crucial points you mentioned. And first point, I think it is very much well rooted to the concept of deep ecology or deep philosophy of Arne Nash that you said, that to explain something, you need to have a deep understanding of something. And for that, you need amalgamation of many, many subjects and the ground realities. Then only you can explain even simple things in a very marvelous way. Second point that you are saying is that never regret. And you are I think you are a live example that I have never seen you in tension or stress or something. You are talking something negative. You are always positive, and it is very clear from you that perhaps you have never regretted for whatever you have done. Whether it is good or bad, that's a different thing, but you have never regretted. And third thing is that never stop learning.
Who decides what is good or what is bad? Sorry.
So that is also subjective. So third thing is that never stop learning. I think life teaches many, many things, and life never stops us teaching till the last day. So it's a continuous process. We have to evolve with the course of time. And if we stop doing that, we are dead. So these are the very important 3 points that he has mentioned, along with many other points. And I'm sure that students will have a lot of questions. Please feel free. He is extremely friendly, extremely positive and jovial. Don't worry. Once upon a time, I still remember that I used to think twice before talking to Professor Ravi Verma. He's so good in English, and I was so poor in English. So I used to think many times, should I go and talk to sir? But I was a fan of this fellow. So it's a different conversation, and we definitely learned many, many things from this person. So please go ahead and ask your questions.
Sir, there is a question in the chat box for you. Shall I read? You have.
I mean, I think that's a comment that I don't have any question. Today I was a bit down after an internship opportunity got cancelled due to COVID, which I was excited for a long time. But sir, I'm so highly motivated after this talk. A very thank you, sir. This talk will be with me for a long time. Oh, someone, thank you so much. Thanks for listening carefully and paying attention. So I think that's important. Thank you. Yes, you should not. You should not worry. You will get other opportunities and better. Then, sir, do we need PhD to get job at ICRW? Can we, as a fresher, get job at organizations such as yours? Should we consider them after our masters? Well, a lot of undergraduates and undergrads come to ICRW to do internship, and we are, we are a small organization. We are not like Population Council or other organizations that are endowed with a lot of money. We are, roj kuan khodo, roj pani piyo kind of people we are. So we all work hard, all our team, everybody, we work hard all the time, think of new ideas and then raise funds for ourselves. But then we are very mindful of this kind of this kind of nurturing young people and mentoring people, and therefore we have very small amount of money that we give from our projects to any intern who wants to do spend some time with us and learn from the kind of work we do. So that's perfectly fine. My sense is that if you are not too much in rush for getting a job, complete your education. At some point in time, you would begin to feel the need for enhancing your skill sets more, and especially in the areas of research and research leading to programs and programs leading to advocacy, and how all that advocacy and communication and research and programs get intermixed. Then you begin to feel that, okay, I should have my own say in all this story that is unfolding, and therefore you need more little more training. So uh, don't don't rush for a job when you're undergrad at moment. If you're not completed masters, you think you should complete masters, you should and whether you should do PhD or not, look, and we don't insist on on PhD. Donors insist when they not insist, but donors rate different proposals when it comes from somebody who's. I don't use the word doctorate before my name. I insist that doctor is not part of my name. I took doctorate and PhD as part of my, again, exploration in life, that okay, what it is. And people were doing at that time, it was a mechanical process. I jumped, I got selected there, and I reached there. So and did it. But a lot of our colleagues doing exceptionally well without PhD, and they are really good. They are really good. And this is not to undermine PhD. I think PhD adds value to one's own sense of analytical skills. A lot of if somebody has done the PhD with the sincerity and the with the idea of really sharpening one's skill, then there's nothing like it. PhD gives you a concentrated 3 to 4 years to literally take a deeper dive in what you do, how you sharpen your thinking, what you do to increase your abilities to express. So there's nothing like PhD is a comfort, actually. Is a PhD time is the best time in one's career, in my view, because you can have your time to learn, to de-learn, to acquire newer skills. Read as much as possible. Read any trash. Read any good book, but read during that time. So PhD is nothing like PhD time, but provided one has used that time. I've seen a lot of people who come out of the PhD as a mechanical ticking box, and then it becomes very difficult to even to accept the fact that you have someone with PhD, but the basics could be missing, and the perspectives could be missing, because people have not invested their time into maximizing the PhD time, which is far more luxurious and one's own time. So that I think if you have the ability to do PhD and want to do PhD, is your choice. But after masters, if you think you have reached a level of a specialization, and you can take that as part of your job search and career building, don't hesitate. Come and look for opportunities. Send your CVs, send your special interest. Write on your CVs always, or application, that why you are seeking job, what is the value addition you bring after this masters into the job that you are looking for, and how you think you can learn from this whole process. Because at the beginning of the career, it's very important that someone comes with that attitude and presents oneself as what one knows that I'm going to do. What I know, what I'm going to do, what I know, my capacity of what I can do, even if it is limited, but I can do this well, and and open to expanding it and learning it. So that is what is needed after even masters. If you are preparing your CVs, your applications, make sure that you take a chance on that. But if you think that you have the if you have the ingredients, if you are as we used to call PhD material, there are some who are PhD materials, some of them are not PhD material at this time. Everybody should not just run into the PhD. Some of us do PhDs in the mid-career ways. When I've spent about 10 years of my work experience and I have gained enough insights, and then I have formulated my idea of what I want to do, advanced learning, and then I go back to PhD. But in current education system, it has become so, and I feel sad about it, that everybody wants to run and do PhD because they want to tick that box and say, okay, I have a PhD degree. And that has its own repercussions. So let me not talk about all that, but I think judge for yourself whether you want to do PhD or you have the ability to jump into a career cruise by exploring for some time and then withdrawing and going back into studies and education. You're all young. You could in fact move from one institution to another institution for sharpening your perspective and all. I've seen a lot of students from IIPS going into TISS doing a course, or TISS students then joining IIPS doing distance education and other kinds of courses if they don't get in mainstream course or MSW. So just an example. So sorry I took so much time, but I just want to assure you that that you should not really jump into job if you are undergraduate at this point. I definitely discourage that. Complete your masters.
Thank you, sir.
Hello.
Yeah.
Good evening, sir. Thank you so much for this incredible lecture. I just recently completed my PhD, but since I'm already into the job market, I'm looking and searching, and so listening to you was very helpful. Not only from technical perspective, as in what we might require, but more so from a motivational perspective, because given the situation, it becomes difficult for us to keep up the tempo. And so anyway, so I had one very basic question regarding ICRW. Is that what is the, I would say, a favorite medium for ICRW to recruit? Because I have tried applying once through LinkedIn, but I really didn't receive any correspondence. So I was hoping to know what could be a good way to apply, whether it is direct, application by sending CVs, or is there some other mode which we can go?
Thank you. Thank you for asking me this question, because it also gives me a clue that we are perhaps not doing it well. And we have an HR system in place. We have a system of announcing jobs with clear descriptions of job descriptions. And then we send it out through various platforms. So these are the solicited kind of job opportunities we often announce on our website and also through DevNet and many other platforms. But obviously, those are not the perfect measures. And I'm absolutely sure that we might be missing out a lot of real talented people because the initial screening and initial process of, there are too many applications, then HR and the folks there may be doing a mechanical, this is what the quantitative people do. Quantitative exercise do this. So they must be developing some indicators of 5, 6, and then pool in and say, okay, people get this 5 score, 10 score, and then they select out finally 4, 5 for next round and all that. So there's very likelihood that even the real talent gets slipped out from there. And so I have tried to overcome this by having both informal and formal channels of identifying people. I I think if you or anyone wants to apply to ICRW, for example, for any not for any particular job, but in a generic sense, looking for opportunities, then you could, or you should always address it to the HR, maybe copy it to a couple of uh, people. That's like research director, who's ever right now is Pranita is the research director. Your IIPS colleague, she's ex-IIPS. She is heading our research and program division. You could copy me because I can keep a tab on such applications that come in a very generic sense, and see, and then what we do is we recirculate those CVs or bios or applications or requests to a lot of our program teams, all the senior teams to program, and then they reroute the whole problem whom they find good. They feel that because the time they are looking at the select one, the one who's applying, they then they reroute the whole process of putting it through the HR. So at least it makes sure that there is that you're not lost in this whole crowd of applications. One is not lost. So that's for the generic kind of stuff. And if you see a very specific opportunity for which JD is already out, you should apply through that channel definitely. So to get registered into that system, but you can always again write a different email, whomsoever in the ICRW. There's so many IIPS people. You can always feel free to write to any. But people just write from anywhere. They just send mail to me, to other colleagues, that look, I'm interested and I've applied and I didn't receive any call. Can you please look at that? And we circulate it into the system and see why and what happened. So we try to do as much justice as possible to the aspirants and those who think that they are talents. But I'm sure that we are missing out something there, and I could look into that. But these are the different ways you should. I
Thanks.
hope I answered your question.
Yes, absolutely. Thanks a lot.
Yeah, I think it's going to be already 6:10. We can take maximum one question because, yeah, we are going sort of time. So if you have any question, the last question. Anybody has any question?
Good. Yeah, they're all busy for their term paper now, I'm sure. So all the your term papers, your examinations, and your future. I'm sure our paths will cross somewhere sometime. And I wish you all very, very, very bright future, very bright future. And you have bright future, I can tell you. It doesn't come at a time when you want it the most, but it comes. It definitely comes. So I have faith.
Thank you, sir. Before we formally end this lecture, can I request Mr. Saikat Roy to give a formal vote of thanks?
Oh, that's okay.
Good evening, everyone. It is my privilege to propose a vote of thanks on behalf of my friends and seniors at IIPS and acknowledge the contribution of those who worked hard to make this placement talk possible. First, I would like to thank Dr. Ravi Verma for his excellent speech. Sir, I am grateful to you for sparing some time for us out of your busy schedule. I am sure the valuable insights you shared with us today will benefit us both in our academic and professional careers. We'll be looking forward to collaborating with you in the future. I also extend my gratitude to our placement coordinators, Dr. Aparajita Chattopadhyay and Dr. Manas Pradhan, for organizing this placement talk series. We have been fortunate enough to be backed by a team of very motivated and dedicated students committee, and I thank them for their help. I would also like to thank the ICT staff who played a pivotal role in arranging the online meeting. Finally, I thank my friends and seniors for attending this session and making it a success. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you so much. All the best once again.
Thank you, sir. Thank you.
Thank you.
Stay safe. Stay safe. Good.
Thank you, sir.